It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Raph Esparza, saying hello to you. It is 5:37 over here on Best Coast time. It's a Thursday. We have almost made it through the week. Doesn't feel that different. It's all right. It's what happens. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys as we are getting this up and running. I'm going to encourage you, as I have been doing for the past 2 months, to do your part. I know it sucks. Some places are starting to open back up, and that's great. It does not mean everything is going to be fixed. It means we still got to support our gyms, we still got to support our friends, and we still have to instruct as many people as we can on ways that we can band together as a community. So here's our little simple solution. What I've been encouraging people to do is take out one of these little Post-its every day, find 3 person, places, things, small businesses encouraged, but gyms especially, and find ways that you can help them out. It can be as simple as, hey, buy a DVD, buy a private, buy a seminar. Any one of those things that instructs or helps our jiu-jitsu community is great. If you don't have financial means, and I totally get it right now, things being as they may with the coronavirus, we totally encourage you to do your part to maybe volunteer to your gym, maybe offer to help organize for them, because Lord knows with some of these restrictions and the way that we go back, there's going to be a lot of stuff that they're going to have to go back and start doing. So there is that. And last but not least, if one of the 3 people, places, things on these lists is something that you don't have the means or the time to do, check in on your friends. It's pretty easy. We talk a lot about mental health, but we very rarely do things to make sure our friends are good. And once you check in with them, here's the benefit, especially if they're training partners, you can immediately talk shit to them. That is how easy you can do a small part that I promise you will have a large impact. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get straight to the people that we've got here today. So this is an interesting conversation. Reason being, we're starting to see events go back. We're excited to have them come back. We had one event that was kind of center zero, if you would, for how the reaction to the coronavirus was going to begin in our sport. It was an event. The good folks over at Third Coast Grappling did the right thing, pulled the plug, and we found out later that they would have had somebody who could have potentially been there who had COVID. And in retrospect, it was a very smart thing to go and pull the plug. We're going to talk about that as well as what they've got coming up in the near future, because they're not just bringing you 4 events. They got one lined up already in August because they want to make sure that you guys have plenty of grappling to see, and they're going to do it the right way. We talked earlier this week with our good friend Andrew Gar, who told us that they'd even taken the steps necessary to go ahead and find ways to integrate people. That is, people, not just closed circuit, actual people coming to see their events. So let's go ahead and talk with Ryan McGuire and Zack Marshall from Third Coast Grappling. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Good, Raph. Good, Raph. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Zack, it's a pleasure to meet you. I don't know that we've had the pleasure of meeting before, and if we have, I apologize. I'm an idiot.
I don't think we have. Nice to meet you too, man.
All right. And Ryan, good to see you as well. Ryan, I have to ask this question. You sent me a note that basically was like, hey, man, you don't love me anymore? And I have to respond to that because did you not have enough airtime starting to do your own show now?
Well, the thing is it's a lot different when you're interviewing other people than when you're getting interviewed. So like when you're interviewing other people, you don't want to talk too much about your own stuff because then you come off kind of as a, making it all about you. So
Ryan's a sensitive guy. You gotta realize that he has a thick exterior, a soft interior.
Very soft.
I just got that note from you, and I was like, listen, dude, I'm trying to take care of people who don't have shows. And I'll be very honest with you. There are a number of people who do have shows who reach out to me and they're like, how come I'm not on the show? I'm like, because you're on the internet every day. If you're already there, I don't feel the need to put you at the top of my list.
Of course.
But clearly, you have been up to stuff since. I want to get the perspective from you guys right up top. I know closing it and shutting it down sucked, and I hate to take you back to that time.
No,
before we can progress, I think we need to be able to talk about how you were able to come to that decision, because I know it wasn't easy.
Honestly, we like you met Dr. Degar. We had a group of people around us. One of our close friends and former staffers is a PhD epidemiologist student. So when all the shit hit the fan and the media on the left and then on the right, and, you had, internet experts and everybody that thought that they knew what was going on.
at that time there wasn't even a left and a right. There was not even politics in it. So
yeah, it was crazy.
Well, so the time we had two decisions that we made. The first one was canceling travel, and that's because at the time we had only known COVID in the U.S. at very few locations. It was like New York, it was Washington, and it was
California.
Like and that's the only places where we had people traveling in. There was no new cases or known cases at the time in Houston, and so it being, they're canceling the rodeo, or no, this was even before the canceled rodeo. So we saw that the cases were increasing in these places, and we knew that to put the athletes that we're bringing in at risk of, they may not have it, but we're putting them on planes, having them have to come in contact with a lot of people before they get to Houston, and then mingle with a bunch of Houston. We're going to have 1,000 people there. Maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe we want to keep it just local Texas. So we first made the decision to just cancel travel. Let's just make it easy. We'll just have a locals only event. This is almost in line with why we started Third Coast in the first place. We wanted to highlight the talent that the Third Coast brings that typically doesn't get represented very well. And so we're just going to do a throwback Texas only event. Let's see how it goes. And then the closer we got to the event, the more we just started seeing things drop. First the NBA,
South by Southwest. I mean, all these huge things.
And the rodeo, we're like, oh crap. And then the day before, we found out some local events were canceling too. So literally, we're driving to our weigh-ins the day before the event. And we're all on the phone. Like we have all the leaders of the company on the phone. We're like, we got to make a decision now. Do we, have everybody weigh in, and then, they have ticket money. There's a bunch of logistical nightmares that go into canceling an event, as you can imagine. But we didn't want to go through with the weigh-ins and then have to cancel the next day, and then have to return everybody's ticket commission money that they had already paid out, and all this stuff. So we're like, bad news doesn't get better with time. So we made that decision. We go, okay, we're going to cancel it. We all need to turn around right now so that we can get on the internet, start getting the message out. We already had somebody on site that could start breaking the news to the athletes. And, in retrospect, we probably should have just gone to the weigh-ins and told everybody face to face. But at the time, we're like, it was crazy. We didn't know what to do.
I was actually crying in the car on the way home. So after we canceled, I think I was just in hysterics and crying too much that it wasn't a good idea to go to the venue. So that's why we went ahead. And
that was a pretty depressing weekend. And then and then after that, it spiraled even more by the time the next couple days. I mean, I think by the next week, everybody was pretty much on lockdown anyway. So
yeah, I mean, the venue, we wouldn't have had the event on the 14th, regardless of if we didn't cancel or not. I mean, that wasn't happening regardless. I mean, there wasn't every event had canceled. Everybody around us had canceled. They had cut capacities to a point that we couldn't even throw a profitable event. So it was just.
Well, and the thing was that we got a lot of people that weren't happy with our first decision to cancel the travel. And then at one, as I'm thinking about it, even the day going into the weigh-ins, I'm saying, if we're the only ones that actually end up doing an event, are we the irresponsible ones?
No.
And that was the question I asked Ryan as we're driving the event. I go, at what point do we become the irresponsible ones? Because we're still going ahead with the event. Now we've made the decision to, limit the risk, because all it is risk mitigation.
Right.
And we limit the risk with reducing the travel. But then, as we're driving in, I go, Ryan, like, all these other events have canceled. At what event are we being reckless and not thinking of?
And that's why we've worked so well together, because me on the emotional side, I'm like, we're trying to do things to mitigate, still make sure a show goes on, and the whole time we're getting drugged by people with ulterior motives behind shadowy, articles or this, that, and the other. And so I was emotional. I was like, you know what? I'm not fucking canceling no matter what now, at least until these other events cancel, the ones that were talking all the shit. So when they canceled, that was when finally
I had to remind Ryan that the ego is not a factor here. Like this is bigger than your ego of never being in an event before.
I mean, I just spoke with one of my friends. He was putting on an event, and it was supposed to be early April. And we had talked in February and late February, and he was like, hey, man, yeah, just get your flight. I'll figure out, I'll take care of it. I'll do all that. And I knew he had so much to take care of. I was like, I'm not getting the flight. And we didn't even have time to talk about it. And so I recently just got to talk with him, and I just said, listen, dude, I hope you understand exactly what I was doing. This is not me being like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do this. It's me saying, as a business partner, as a friend, I couldn't in good conscience see the writing on the wall and say, yeah, lose this money too. And to me, I was like, listen, all of us had to make unpopular decisions that I'm sure at the time may have seemed one way to one person. But if you're any person with a logical brain, you're going to look back and reflect on that time and say, yeah, I don't think any of us knew what to do. I knew I work at a place. I'm working on a show right now. That show is attached to Universal Studios. Once I heard that Disney was closing down, I literally was like, well, this has been fun. Where you going? I was like, oh, we're going to be shut down. If Disney shut down, I'm just packing up stuff to be ready. Anyway, let's go ahead and knock this out, guys. I knew what you guys were doing is unpopular to people who want to maintain normalcy. The hard part is this is not a normal time. This is not a normal situation. And the thing that people and maybe athletes may not understand in this perspective is they're not responsible for other people. You're responsible for other people. So to take that on, it seems heady, and I'm sure you had to take a lot of shitty comments from a lot of people who have fake degrees on YouTube. Yeah. But I think, I'm not sure if I had sent you the note, Ryan. I know we're in touch usually here and there, but I was like, it's tough, but I'm glad you did it. And
yeah, I mean, it was the fake, the fake accounts, the fake comments, the fake bullshit. It was just like an attack on us. It was just like, we had been so boisterous, or I've been so boisterous promoting our product for the past year, as any good promoter would be, that at any sense of a stumble or this or that or blood, especially in the climate we were in, everybody was angry, everybody was confused. People were, things were canceling left and right. It was an uncertain time. And there were people that were maybe counting on that money at the event. And there was a lot of other emotions and things mixed up into it. So, me and Zack are reasonable people. We pretty much said anything that went on during like the coronavirus stuff or stuff like, it's not even reality to us. It's like, it's to the point to now it's like, okay, cool. Like we've learned some great lessons. We've spent a lot of time on our product the past few months.
I mean, if you think about it, everybody involved in this community is a fighter, right? So when you lose the ability to fight regularly, it translates into fighting other places. That's where you see these like internet beefs with all these athletes. Is like, are we grown-ups or what? What's going on here? Like, it's like the only way I can get my fight in is to fight people online now.
Well, that's what they. Yeah, go ahead.
We were joking on our shows. And I was telling Kevin, my co-host for Verbal Tap, I was like, I think they're getting their wires mixed, because it feels like the vibe is almost like a September 11th, where we're kind of in an uncertain time, and it feels like, man, this would be a great time for people to come together. But instead, we now have people who you can't just say like, get this terrorist, let's go get them. This is a virus, and they're coming for
nobody to punch. There's nobody to punch is the problem.
Like, I can't punch a virus. I'd like to. It'd be nice, but it's just not the way it works. It's you lean on people that you say, all right, nerds, this is on you guys. Help us on this. And even there, I think the science is going to evolve. We're going to lose.
Even months later, you hear different things every day. It's like, so, I can't blame anybody for having to make tough decisions, months ago when we had little information. But it's like, can you make decisions once you have the information and not make it political, but make it the right decision based off of the right information that you're getting?
And that's what we did when we brought in Dr. Degar and then Corey as well. Is that we had two people that were just looking strictly at the science. They're giving us recommendations, and those are people way smarter than us that do this for a living. And so we adhered to what they said, and honestly, following their directions and stuff, like we said, we potentially could have turned that last event into a COVID hotspot, because one of our biggest supporters, he runs the Houston Jiu Jitsu community kind of group or whatever. He attends every event. He's front row. He's always doing his thing. He tested positive for COVID 2 days after our event, so he would have been asymptomatic, carrying it around the event, touching, getting drunk, slapping hands, giving hugs. And next thing you know, Third Coast Grappling is not only assholes that all of a sudden can't pay their fighters, but they threw an event that gave everybody coronavirus. So
by the way, today I got tested, and I tell you what, I don't know if you've gotten tested before, but that tickle in your brain shit, my eyes started wandering up. I was like, don't cry. Don't cry. There's like soldiers there, like to direct me. I'm like, let me put my glasses on. This is a risk.
No, we have the very temporary, like, not extensive background test out here in LA, and my wife and I went to go do that. And I will tell you, the pain that I got from that test was I didn't have my reservation on my phone at the time.
Oh my God.
And they need you to see that because you're in a car and you're supposed to go up there. And these guys are heckling me. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'm funny. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you get like coronavirus nerds like making fun of you. It's like,
I'm also sitting there being like, I don't want to be a problem for these people who have to deal with this.
You know, I can beat you up, right? Like,
yeah, I could take them. I just thought the funny part was I was looking at them and I just thought, like, don't be the problem. This is how they're getting through. It's like people who form a callus to jokes when they're in extreme circumstances.
Callous humor, right? They're like, we got another one.
Yeah. And the funny part is like, I think at a certain point my wife started selling me out. She's like, I mean, he's had the time. He done it when I was doing it. I was like, not the time, babe.
It's like that Bill Burr joke. He's like, we just have way too many people. He's like, you know, if you didn't bring a pencil, you're out too.
I mean, I understand that. I'm sympathetic toward it, and I knew that there was an article that went up. And when the article comes up, it's weird how people conflate different things, or they go off speculation and they combine those things. So what it seemed to me is that they just wanted to write an article and they had a perspective. And it's very hard for me to read things in jiu-jitsu, period, in terms of journalism, because most people don't adhere to rules and they don't adhere to like the actual practices of it. So I thought, man, it's one thing to not only close it down and say like, we're not going to do this event, but then a week and a half later to have a speculative article at best that said the magic words, which was, we tried to reach out for comment and they were unavailable at press time. And I was like, I bet you it was
no, they actually allowed us to respond. The guy that did the article, Louis, is somebody that, you know, that did one of our first articles together, and, you know, we were cool. And then, you know, as things rolled out, we found out, you know, who these anonymous sources were. You know, he basically squealed like a pig when our attorney sent a cease and desist letter. I mean, we disputed every fact.
When Ryan sent me that article, I go, so is this whole thing, this speculation that we don't have a lot of money?
Like,
guess what? We run a grappling promotion. Yes. They have a lot of money.
Like, what do you think? Like, I mean, not everybody has fucking Big Daddy oil money or warlord money.
Yeah, busted. No, but do we have enough money to cover, you know, our event? Yeah. We you know, this isn't our first one, or at least the one we're about to do wasn't our first one. So we have everything fine-tuned, and I'm a system, you know, I'm an engineer, I'm a systems guy, so I'm breaking down the numbers and breaking down, you know, how much we can expect on average for, you know, this venue compared to this venue, how much we get from alcohol, from, you know, sponsors, everything.
Mm-hmm.
We have it down. Yeah, we have it down for that event, and we are, you know, we were gonna make money on the big event with the traveling. We're also going to make money at the Texas only event. We're going to make money both ways. So we lost money, or we didn't. I mean, we did lose money because we had to pay for like a lot of travel and stuff. And then
we went out to some athletes and gave them a little bit of money, like guy.
But the article of, you know, whether we shut it down because we didn't have the money was completely false and erroneous. But that we don't have, that we're not like super rich, that's true. Like we're a grappling promotion. We don't do this to make a lot of money. We don't, this is Ryan. We make enough to where Ryan can do this full time. I have an actual full-time job and I do this on the side. But we're good enough to where we can, maintain and sustain and build. And the whole thing is growing and building, and it's our first year. So, just the article, I was like, this is nonsense. We should just ignore it and not say anything. But it is hard to when you get an article written, and I can only imagine, politicians and celebrities that get stuff written about them all the time. This is really the first time it happened to me. And you just want to fight back because you're like, this is just not true. It's just ridiculous.
And that's what we did was fight back. I mean, we got with our.
I kept telling Ryan to just stop. Like, it's nonsense. You're bringing more attention to the article than it needs to because it's.
But look, we never posted it. We never posted it.
People are gonna read this damn thing.
We never posted it. We never mentioned it. But I do know how small the community is, and the people that were behind that article had made some very grand assumptions on things that they have no clue about, and whatever. That's their prerogative. That's their business. This is our business, and that's all we're worried about. We're not really too concerned anymore about what so-and-so is doing and this is doing. We're concerned about what we're doing. And I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned is to get back to, day one stuff, focus on us. We got ourselves here and we're going to continue down the road.
And I always tell Ryan, I mean, the only way you can prove people wrong is through creation. You just keep going and you keep building and creating and building new things. That's a whole thing around the podcast. It's a whole thing about everything we do is about just building. And everything, you have to build everything on top of everything else. And so the only way you can fight criticism is to just continue to build and continue to go. And, people can always say bad things about you, but as long as people are buying tickets to your event and, subscribing to your YouTube and, liking your post, then you just continue to do what you're doing and continue to build. And that's all you can do. If you're going to pay attention to the 3 haters that are like, I don't like what you're doing, then that's where you're going to go focus in. You're going to stop focusing on building, and you're only going to be focusing on proving them wrong by, verbally or through keyboard. But it's not worth it.
Well, Raph, you've been in the game for a while, so it was like we have so much support. Like everybody, messages us daily almost. Like, oh, we support, like, love what you're doing. But it's so easy to get caught up on those 3 or 4 motherfuckers that might have something negative to say instead of being grateful for the thousands of people that are out there. It's just a mindset thing, I guess.
It's difficult. I mean, it's, I think, maybe somewhat easier for us as a comedy show because we tend to use people who give us shit as extra topic fodder. And then we make fun of them because, I mean, the hard part that people forget is it's just like getting a heckler and you go, oh, I'm on stage. I know how to deal with this. This is not a problem. The problem is now going to be your hurt feelings. And I've worked enough in customer service with people to be like, you have 5 minutes of my time. How you use it is up to you. But when you're done with the 5 minutes, that's it. And so, that's about the extent of we have people who I think recently we had somebody on YouTube telling that we were in favor of censorship. And I was like, huh? Like, what kind of weird take did we get from that? And
it's like some bot. It's probably a bot or something.
Well, the thing that you realize is you start with the actual question of, can you reference it? And they go on a tirade. And then you realize you're like, oh, this is a hit job.
This is an insane person.
Well, necessarily an insane person, maybe too much time on their hands, but their goals may be to make you trip up, to make you look stupid, to make you do more things than you need to. And I'm just like,
they need those victories because they're not getting it somewhere else.
Yeah, but to me, I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, man, I hope you understand that in like 2 months, I'm going to talk about you on a podcast somewhere, and you're going to look real dumb.
I have a buddy that is a writer. He writes novels, and he wrote the top 10, like, Amazon comments that were negative towards his book. Like, he posted it and he was like, these are my top 10 favorites. And some of them were like, I've read 430 books in the past year and this is the worst one. Like, I mean, sometimes you just gotta like it's like Ryan said, it's a mindset. You can have the mindset where you're going to let it bother you, or you can just say, fuck it, I'm going to focus on being who I am, building what I want to build. And if you like it, you're come along on the journey and you can be with us. If you don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah, go ahead, Ref. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say, as a marketing consultant, what I've told people, if they've ever got those reviews, is I'm like, hey man, that's free feedback. So here's what we're going to do. And this is based off of when I used to compete in speech or debate. So the people who compete today in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like what I did for speech and debate. And we would get these ballots, and they were all subjective responses to whatever you put on. A lot of the times it came down to, I just didn't like it. You could be amazing, but they just be like, I just didn't like it. And you're like, oh, cool. Thanks for the feedback. But what you would do is, and I would teach my students to do, is I would say, all right, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the cards that they give you. And if you get a note more than 5 times, we have to address it. Like, we have to discuss it, and we have to realize, is that an actual problem? If it's not, discard it. But use that feedback, even if it's shittily written or it's written by somebody who sounds like a moron, to understand they're trying to tell you something. And a good person who has a good structure for their business or for their performance art is going to look at that and say, like, cool, I need that. That'll make me better. And so it's very similar to how when I've worked with people in consulting for their social media, I've been like, you're not here and they're telling you they think this one sucks. What I'm trying to get by is you can discard it, but if they're not selling, maybe we should focus on highlighting other products or putting more time into elsewhere. Right. And so to me, it's like, listen, feedback is very valuable, even if it's stupid. Like, you know how to use it and amplify it. I would say, though, the only slanderous article I was close to maybe writing about you guys was are they trying to kill the Tacit brothers? Because
yes.
To me, it seems like, I don't know if it's more they have a death wish or you guys are
they're glutton for punishment.
No, what it is that those guys like Andrew, William, Tiffany over there, Cody, those guys have been with us from day one. They've been loyal, and they
train on those videos where they post where they're like, we went over there, Ryan and I, we were meeting with Flow Grappling. So before the meeting, we went over to the Brazilian Fight Factory and trained with them.
Zack got choked out by a 15-year-old.
Yeah. Well, you would have too if you weren't too afraid to roll.
I wasn't afraid. I was rolling with freaking William and Cody getting my ass beat. So I was like,
Ryan rolled with the 9-year-old brother and got tapped out.
No, that was Lisa. It wasn't me. Caleb probably would.
There's a lot of taps to go around in that room.
I would just say that I find it intriguing. It's a perfect mix of, man, they're really up for it, and then looking down and saying, like, how many people are going to go up against him in one day? Jesus.
You being a pro wrestling guy, me and you talk this all the time. Like, I love the gimmicky stuff because you know what? If you're going to go viral, if you're going to get people outside of grappling fans to watch, they're going to be like, this guy just fought 3 guys in one night and won. I want to see how this happened. Or that's a real Royal Rumble. Are you kidding me? Like, there's going to be people running down the ramp with their music hitting, and there might be 10 people on the mat. Like, that's stuff that pushes grappling further than some prestigious.
But what really, and this is what we're trying to get to eventually with, the promotion, is what really sells wrestling is the story, right? And nobody's gonna really care about jiu-jitsu unless there's a story that people can follow. And that's why UFC got so famous, is after the Ultimate Fighter, they had people that they can now root for because they knew a little bit more about their personalities, about their story. And if nobody knows about these athletes who have amazing like backgrounds and perseverance and discipline and all this stuff, unless there's some kind of way to showcase it, the sport's never going to grow.
Right. And I would say this. It's kind of interesting because I don't know if you guys see the video of that fighter taking on that woman with the Karen haircut.
Yes.
Okay. That comes up every once in a while. I
feel sorry for all actual Karens out there because their name is.
What? As a Raphael who had years of being called a Ninja Turtle, they can deal.
Cowabunga, dude.
Hey, there's worse things to be called than a Ninja Turtle.
Well, think about it like this: in your form,
I got called Zach Morris.
That's great. That means you're running the school.
I know. Raphael with the edgy ninja.
No, he got dubbed by Kelly Kapowski though. So I mean, his homie. We could go into that whole Zach Marshall, Zach whatever thing, Zach Morris thing, but there's more.
I'll tell you this much: there are worse things than to be the main character on a show. The reason why Raphael's an interesting thing, especially if you're a decently okay, nice person, is that they'd be like, you'd say something, you'd be like, "Hey man, you must be cool but rude," and be like, "Well, okay." And they'd be like, "See, you're not. You're just rude. Look at that." And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you want from me, man. Now I'm fucking rude.
You Hafa, right? Hafa. What's up?
I've gotten every name under the sun. I tell people I respond to anything with an up inflection because I've had people be like, "Hey, what's up, Rafe?" And I'm like, that one I don't like.
Or Hook, Rufio.
Yeah, I like Rufio. That one's okay. I didn't really get that one as much because I didn't get as Filipino. No, when you live in the Midwest and the South, and I did for a couple of years, I got Raphael, Rafe, which is still stupid. Like everything under the sun, I was just like, it's just Raph. I think we're good here. Let's transition though. I'm very excited for what you guys have coming up. So most people are trying to plot their return back. You guys will be one of the first events to come back, but not just an event. You have a series of events that are happening within the next successive weeks. So let me see if I have this right. June 6th, 20th, 27th, July 11th, and August 8th. Tell me a little bit about those shows.
Well, those shows kind of came about. Me and Zach were kicking ideas around. After the post 3CG4 depression wore off, it was kind of like, all right, well, what do we do? We can't just sit around here. I got so tired of doing podcasts after 2 weeks. I was like, Zach, I can't keep doing this. Like, let's I got tired of doing like Raph. Like, props to you guys that have been.
Look at Joe Rogan does like 5 a week and it's like 3 hours each. Like how?
Well, Joe makes a lot more. If you pay me what you're paying Joe, you'd see 9 hours.
Especially after. Are you selling your podcast to Spotify too? I heard that.
We are available to. I'll tell you that much.
Spotify, if you're listening.
I didn't know you could get paid millions of dollars for it.
Well, you can license your stuff, and that's a good, smart idea. But I told people, I'm like, you know what the funny part about this with Joe is that with us, we're looking at it, and I go, we had somebody respond when I go, hey, 100 mil, good for him, dude. That's amazing.
Exactly.
But somebody said to us, they go, oh, man, he's doing it to get that censorship at YouTube. And I was like, way to stick it to the man. Yeah, that 100 mil. That's really showing YouTube what's up.
But getting back to the events, I mean, the events kind of came about. I was honestly like racking my brain, Zach, how do we make this work? Our contracts were set up for this. I mean, it's post-pandemic. Lots of things we're right in the middle of a pandemic. So we started planning, and it was kind of like a light bulb moment went off. And I called Zach. I was laying there with my wife talking to her, and I was like, babe, hand me my phone. And like immediately I called Zach, and I pitched the idea to him. I'm like, hey, man, like, what if we bring out, with our budget, the way our licensing fees are, the way things are, we're going to have to change to a completely different venue because right now the only venues that can technically have spectators are like, say, these big multi-purpose gyms. Capacity is like 400. So if we do 50% capacity, we're at 200 with 100 spectators, 50 staff and athletes. We're well under fire marshal recommendation. We confirmed that with police. So it's like, we can do this. So we went back to Flow Grappling after we got the format together and we pitched it, and they were super supportive, and they were like, yeah, you guys like rock and roll. They really, and big shout out to those guys. They've stood by us through all this stuff. Howell, Tori, all those people over there, through all the craziness, they've been supportive. Like, hey, let's get through this. Let's find a way to weather it. We're all ears if you guys have any ideas. So that's what we kept doing, is we kept trying to come up with a way to keep our events going. And we knew that if we could do them in succession like this, we could capitalize on a more captive audience and get more shows off in a period of a time, because at this time, it's still kind of in limbo if bars can open. Somebody might be more comfortable going to a gym area, set up as an event rather than going to a live music venue or a bar or this and that. It's just the optics around it might deter people. So we said, okay, well, we're going to do this. And then I was like, well, Zach, how about we find a way to do spectators as well? And then he's like, you're fucking crazy. And then it was like, we started talking amongst myself and him and the people, and we're like, you know what, we can do this. We have a doctor on our staff. We have, a PhD epidemiologist student. We have all kinds of, we have mock seating charts. We're going to have everything.
That's where I come up with the idea too. I said, let's call it 3CG Kumite, and like let's make it very secretive. Where we like the people that bought tickets still don't know where it's going to be.
24 hours before the event.
Send out the invitation 24 hours ahead of time. Like let's do it like very like like a Kumite would be, right? You don't know where it's going to be.
You don't get a Facebook invite telling you where Kumite is going to be taking place.
And it's so iffy.
You know that.
And it's so iffy right now that we don't want to put out there publicly because there might be somebody out there that want to do us harm, might try and tip off so and so, and then next thing you know, they're rolling up on our event, causing problems. So everything we've done has been well thought out. That's what we've done the last few months, is just really dig in, because we grew so fast that day to day that you're looking at the two people right here. Like me, it's the bulk of it's on me, but Zack does his part with being kind of the backbone of the business with the the financial planning, and a lot of the stuff like that is his domain. Whereas everything else, we're known to do a lot with a little, and a little is basically me and Zack. And then recently our fighter relations gal, she's kind of took a more reduced role, so I've stepped more into that. But day to day, me and Zack, and then we grow to a team of almost 30 people come event day. So it's definitely we keep it slim. Overhead was low. That's how we were able to get through the pandemic. We lost our asses, some cancellations and some other things, but we had some money in the bank to take care of that. We got athletes reimbursed, and we went down the road. And then instead of quitting like most people probably would have, we innovated and we found a way to keep going. And so we have these 4 events. We're going to have the 180 and below June 6th, which features some of the top guys in the world. I mean, you got guys like Jamie Canuto, Gabriel Arges, Jake Watson, Manuel Hibamar, Gustavo Batista, Roberto Jimenez, William Tackett, Pedro Mourinho. Every single one of those matches, no matter the mix, no matter what, is guaranteed could possibly be a fight of the night on its own. And so that was something that, we wanted to do. We were like, you know what? The super fight format, paying these guys these big show money, like, okay, I'm going to pay you $2,000 a show, and then I'm going to pay you this. Like, it's not sustainable if you're not able to bring in spectators to help cover the cost of, of fighter costs. So we got creative and said, okay, we'll put this bulk of the money up. We'll put 10 grand up. We'll take $40,000 across 4 events, and you guys come in and work for it. You would have been in tournament season already with the IBJJF. It got canceled completely. So instead of paying $1,000 to go out and compete for a medal, we're going to pay you potentially $10,000 to come beat 3 guys for 10 grand. And we're paying the travel. So, we thought it was a pretty good deal. We got me and Zack got the format nailed down. And, after these 4 events, we go back into August 8th, which will be our big return to our big venue. And, just get back to doing some of the crazy stuff that we had planned that I had talked to you about. And then August 9th is our big kids event, our big kids return. So, and we're scheduled through December of this year. So we're looking at probably 9 events between now and December is what we're lined up for. So,
okay. All right. Well, hey, dude, that sounds really good. And, Zack, to kind of go off of what you guys were saying just in terms of an audience, I'm saying this from somebody as California right now. I don't foresee us having some audiences for a bit. Texas, I think you guys are a little closer. Just if I were to gauge temperatures in terms of how people feel, because I've seen not only numbers that kind of support, like, okay, it looks like they're ready to kind of go back there, but just fan interests. Like, those gyms that I've seen in Texas are just itching for an event.
We built up, the community in Houston. There was a smaller event called Submission Hunter that really did a great job of cultivating, the local scene in Houston for a while. But they're more of a, I would say kind of a fight to win light, where they don't have the big names, but it's more locals. But they did a great job of cultivating the local scene with a lot of, local talents, giving them big stage experience. And so when we came in, all we did was really elevate the scene, bring these big athletes in, elevate these great talents, give them national exposure, get them on other shows, bring in these big athletes to do seminars in the community, and basically continue to grow the community by adding in more knowledge, by adding more high-level events, and by bringing in a different look at professional jiu-jitsu events. Because honestly, we felt when we came in that the format was kind of tired. And I didn't think that the way it was set up at the time was set up for mainstream success. And
we're obviously fans of jiu-jitsu before we started this. So I love like EBI. I thought EBI was great when that was happening. That's kind of what even got me like really
me too
get into competitive jiu-jitsu, or like watching it, being a spectator, not doing it. But So I mean, there was events that we definitely took inspiration from too, that we thought, we're doing a good job because, but there's room to grow the sport. All what did they say, the harbor rises all ships or whatever. No matter how many jiu-jitsu events there are, as long as it's bringing more awareness, it's going to make more fans and more people want to watch ours.
But also you got to watch out that there's some events that come in that turn people off to jiu-jitsu because they're like, what the fuck is this? This is my first experience at an event, and they're coming in and they're having to sit on the floor and it's just a mat in the middle of some like concrete building. And next thing you know, they're like, this is crazy. Like, this is bum fights with a bathrobe on. I'm never coming back again.
Hey, that's going to be one of our August ones though. Fights with bathrobe. So don't knock it yet.
Tell nobody, man. Fuck.
Well, good. I'm glad that you guys are really fleshing out every single foreseeable audience. You know what I found, just in terms of going and doing commentary and being a part of different things that I've covered, is that it really depends on what your niche is or what you're servicing, because you have to build that loyal community fan base first, and then you can kind of go bigger. Like the first two EBIs were insane. Like, I wasn't there for the first one, but the second one, I was there till 2:30 at night. And it got to the point where they would announce a fighter to come out, and you'd be like, just win. Someone, I want to go home. And me, like, normally I go interview the people, but I'm like, I can't interview anybody right now. They don't have the capacity to say something. That
was BCG2 for us. That went into like 2:00 in the morning.
Because like I booked all these black belt matches, and I'm like, oh man, should be a lot of finishes, and like literally the whole fucking main card went into overtime into a decision, and I was like, never fucking again.
but you have a Texas community that is thriving. It's no mistake that you've got Holy, Cody, the Tacit Bros leading a big movement of people who are saying, like, I think you guys need to pay attention to our scene. And having traveled out that way for EBI to visit Texas, I just saw something that I said, this is unique, this is different, this feels good. So just know that even when a pandemic kind of reduces the amount of travel, there's still a lot that can be done. Like, I feel like it is good to see grappling get back to it. Andrew is kind of walking us through how it is you guys are going to be doing it, but how is it that you're going to be doing it with some of the suggestions that he made in terms of, social distancing and capping numbers? Like, how is that going to go?
Well, basically the way we're going to do it is all the athletes, we're going to have our weigh in kind of, at the venue between 5 and 8, and it's only going to be athletes and staff. We'll be masked. And then every athlete there will be screened by Dr. Degar. They'll have their temperature taken. They'll do a 14-day health questionnaire that they should have already finished that basically says, hey, I haven't been sick or I haven't been in contact with anybody. And then we'll do a brief screening. They'll sign our liability waiver. They'll sign our coronavirus liability waiver, and then the venue's liability waiver. And then once they're cleared medically, they'll be sent to an area that'll be kept separate from, the spectators. Because we got to be very conscious of the grouping. So like we'll have our staff and then the athletes and stuff like that will stay together. And then you have the spectators that'll stay on their side. So we're not mixing too many type of groups. So the biggest thing will be making sure that people stay where they're seated. We have a seating chart with 6 feet mapped out in between seating. If you're in the same household, you can sit together, but there's going to be enough seating around the area to accommodate the 100. So everybody's spaced out evenly and everybody has, we're following all the recommendations from the CDC. Everybody to do that. There'll be hand washing statements. The mats will be washed, in between matches as much as possible. We're going to recommend people, or we're going to, say you can wear a mask, but we're going to require people, because I don't believe we should be required to do anything if we don't want to. I'm not going to wear. As our staff, me and Zack will definitely wear ones to set an example, but we're definitely not requiring people to. And we're really just going into it with the common sense knowledge, because we've been kind of on the front line of this from day one. We were one of the first. And then, we did a ton of research with a lot of really smart people, and we kind of got down to the nitty gritty of it and where the effect would be, and, where we could be, make sure to mitigate our exposure to coming back this soon. So, with our COVID-19 advisory team with Zack and myself, We've done a few site visits, and I mean, we're confident we're going to be able to pull off an event. It's going to be safe. It's going to be high level. It's going to be exciting. Like, you know, people come to
the market doesn't have a lot of 80-year-olds too, so we're gonna.
That's good. Let's not kill grandma and grandpa. You know, it's gonna be one of those things. That's the biggest note I've gotten from so many people that we've done with all of our interviews in this past week. It's like, I don't want to kill grandma and grandpa, and I'm like, okay.
I mean, it's almost like I don't see the difference between if the people that want to take the risk and, you know, start going out and doing, you know, just let's say living a normal life, then they are the people that are at risk. If they're still in quarantine, they're still staying away from the people that are in quarantine because those people are quarantined. So I don't know the difference between at this point of every single person being quarantined and just quarantining the people at risk.
the most vulnerable population.
Still being avoided from everybody, you know what I mean? And there's risk that we take every day. You know, there's I work in functional and process safety industry, and everything's a calculated risk. Like we work with process, you know, chemical facilities that, you know, they do high risk activities, and they do an assessment on what are the highest consequence scenarios that could happen. And then, you know, we put in layers of protection or barriers that can make sure that it's going to reduce the likelihood of that scenario happening. And then, you know, mitigation measures that once a scenario does happen, you know, you can mitigate the severity of it. There's a reason why everybody doesn't have a sprinkler system in their house, because, you know, while a fire could happen in your house, the cost for putting in a sprinkler system in your house is just not reasonable. It's not a reasonable risk, right? Because now furniture isn't as flammable. There's certain, you know, house fires are down. So to mandate everybody pay for a sprinkler system is outrageous. Same thing with driving. You know, you can make everybody safer by reducing the speed limit to 50 miles an hour. Why don't you do that? Because, you know, people are still going to drive like maniacs. Like, but you know, you still are. If you're afraid of driving, you just don't drive and you stay off the road. But you're probably not going to have work because, you know, it's really, unless depending on where you are, Texas, you can't get around unless you drive. So, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the mitigating risk, and I know that the comparisons are difficult to do. You know, it's the same thing of saying you're wearing a seatbelt if you're in a car. I don't necessarily think that's going to be apples, oranges sort of situation.
At this point, it's almost like convincing somebody that's really religious that Jesus doesn't exist, because, you know, it's all based off fear. And, you know, just like religion, politics, a lot of it is around fear. And if people are afraid enough, they're going to believe, their mindset's going to be so set. And when you get fed like constantly, like all this, you know, this misinformation, this real information, you don't know what's true or not. I'm just going to play it safe and stay away from everybody. Well, eventually safety's going to run out, and you can either, you know, stay in your house and become agoraphobe, or you got to get back to work, because half the population's getting to work and you're going to lose your job. So that's the kind of things that people are eventually going to start having to consider is, you know, everybody else is getting back to work, I got to do it too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're still going to find ways that we can improve it. In your guys' in some particular case, I don't think you would ever put out an event that would purposely try to do anything that would, you know, just like, oh, hey, we want to give you COVID, come to our event. It's not
actually really- that's what we're doing June 6th. So if you want to get COVID-19, come to our event.
It's the COVID match.
But on that, having said, is the same thing that I've advocated for people who I'm bringing on my shows in terms of, hey, we want to bring some awareness for our gyms. And I say, that's great. I want you to go ahead and talk about it. However, I will press you on what you're doing to make things safer. I don't care what you believe. It's just, if you're going to protect your students, you better do it all the way through.
Yeah. And what are those risk mitigation measures that you're doing?
And more importantly, just think about it from this perspective. You are going to be held responsible. I'm not saying you're going to have somebody that's going to die at your gym, but who's to say that some person's not going to try and do something against you? So a little bit of a plan will go a long way, is the continuous thing that I've told people, because it's not a free pass. It's not something that we just say like, oh, hey, you're just doing something. All right, good job. Go back. Because I feel like for the immediate time, every business is going to have that impact.
And that's why we have such a limited number too, because we realize, like, if you are, there's going to be plenty of people that still don't feel comfortable going out in public. And that's why they have, you can go on Flow Grappling and watch it. I don't feel like the people that are super afraid of getting it are going to be like, well, I'm still going to go to the event. Right. So those people that are going, that decide to go, are those people that are like, I'm comfortable with the risk. There's nobody being drugged there. I don't want to go, but I have to go see it. It's like, that's probably not going to happen. It'd be the same thing with jiu-jitsu gyms. I don't think there's going to be very many people that, let's say, once they do start rolling, are going to be like peer pressure. Like, oh, well, I got to do it because everybody else is doing it. I think there's going to be still plenty of people that want to do the remote training, and I guarantee you a lot of the gyms are going to continue to do that.
Well, if you don't continue doing the remote training, that could be like an added value to new people that are signing up, that you can say, hey, this extra $10 a month is because we're going to give you access to all this online content. This is another way for gyms to even make another revenue stream.
Well, if anything, I've liked all the innovation that's come out of this, especially with like restaurants. You see that they've had to become super innovative, and like we're selling, like some restaurants were selling survival kits with like meat and eggs and toilet paper and all this stuff. That's the kind of stuff that's America. Like, let's stay innovative. Let's stay. How can we continue to move on? And I think Texas is going to continue doing the takeout alcohol. For curbside alcohol for restaurants. That's brilliant. Why weren't they doing that already, right?
A gallon of margaritas. Oh my God. Like, why didn't we think of this before?
Yeah, my favorite Mexican restaurant down the street wants to give me a bag of margarita mix. Why not? Like, take it home.
But man, it's been crazy, But like me and Zack, we had a good perspective change. I definitely was humbled a little bit. I definitely got to see some stuff that differently than I was seeing, and it was very beneficial for the business. And I think the longer that we're in it, I think the longer we're going to see it. But we're more invested now than ever to taking our product and making it the best the best in the game, and to be able to showcase the sport the best way we can, and to continue giving the athletes a way to make a living. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we got into this with big hearts, with big all idealistic. It was never to get rich, to fuck, and say screw everybody. It was to get in here to showcase, our athletes on our coast, and also bring in some big time athletes to Houston and help grow the scene and just help grow jiu-jitsu in general. Because I think a lot of people get lost on that. And the people that come from it's all money, and all they're focused about is money. They're never going to be happy, because you're never going to attain the amount of money that you're going to need to be truly happy. Because once you have a lot, it's never enough. You always want more. So we came in with our hearts first, and we realized that if we lead with the heart and we do a good job enough, that the money will come eventually. And that's the way we've always approached it. I mean, it's never been a money grab thing for us, because we're a pretty poor grappling promotion.
I wouldn't have gotten in the jiu-jitsu business if I was trying to money grab. But
I mean, we're just creative, put it that way.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a nice set of events that are coming up. I mean, just looking at some of those matches you have coming up on June 6th, I mean, those guys are a good caliber.
Well, yeah, and we had to find the right amount of money to make to bring the right amount of talent out, and we felt like a $10,000 prize for an 8-man tournament would bring the best and brightest out, because there's maybe not the brightest, but the best out. And
I'm going to tell Jake Watson you said that, and then I'm going to see what he has to say.
That guy's definitely pretty bright, though.
He's all right. Here's the thing. He's bright-ish, is what I should say.
So he's like a light bulb kind of dimming a little bit.
It's kind of like,
for your own good, right?
What's that?
I said, you don't want to be too bright for your own good.
Here's the nice part about him, is that he is one of the most upstanding gentlemen, and I was hoping he would find a spot, and it seems like he's got a heavy plate coming up the next few weeks, but I think he's a good return on investment. Tacit, always fun to watch. That makes perfect sense. I believe, did you end up getting Gabe Argis in this as well?
Yeah, Gabe took Lucas Valente pulled out a couple of days ago, I guess. he wasn't very happy with. I mean, I guess the size of the guys. I think he walks at like 160 or 165, and he's worried about the guys that were cutting down from, like, well, 190, 200 down to 180, and just the size. And I'm like, look, it's a GP, man. Like, you gotta lay it all out there. But I understood his reasoning. He's fighting Mateus Gabriel this weekend, and so hopefully that goes well for him. But Lucas is my direct professor. I got nothing but love for him, but I did have to give him a little crap about it. I'm like, hey man, you're gonna leave our GP to go because the guys are too heavy to go fight a guy that's lighter. Like, come on, man. Like what's going on here? But it's all love here, man.
Probably could have taken it too. I mean,
well, Gabe is also no slouch. Gabe is a good one to slot right in there.
Gabe has been him and Edwin and Homolo and all those guys have been great to us from day one. And my professor Dracolino is who gave Homolo his black belt. So there's that whole that Gracie Baja connection. We don't and Gabe, we haven't been able to work with him yet. We had him slotted against Kit Dale, I believe, for 3CG2, but that fell out, and then Gabe was injured. And so now Gabe's going to be doing back to back. We got him in 180 up and 180 below, and that 180 I'll break a little bit down here.
Are you gonna tell the Kumite 2 lineup now?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Raph a little something.
Exclusive.
So all right. So first seed will be Felipe Andrew, and next up, Manuel Hibamar is actually going to come back and come run it back on that. Then we have Felipe Pena that is kind of in limbo right now because we're waiting on if the Brazil travel brand wakes up or not. If not, we have somebody cool and waiting. We got Ricardo Evangelista, we got Jonatas Gracie, we got Gabriel Arges again, Roberto Jimenez, and Gustavo Batista again. So it's literally, I mean, if you're 180 pounds and above, that's pretty much as good as it gets.
That's going to be fun to watch. That's great. And then just to make sure I have this under perfect understanding, these are the gi, and then we're looking at the events on the 27th and the 11th being your 180 up and down in Nogi, correct?
Yeah, and I'll give you a little something on the Nogi too, some of the guys that are confirmed 100%. Just a little something out there. We got Dante Leon, we got Johnny Tama, we got Cody Steele, and we got Wagner Hocha. I'm just going to give you those four for the below 180.
A little taste for your palate.
I'll give you the first four. There we go.
That's great. That's the first four. This is great because even just those names right now, that's good enough. Like you would see that on a Kasai, you would see that as a little mini bracket right there, going up against each other. Cody, Wagner, Tama, who's fucking so hot right now.
Dante. I mean, they're fighting this weekend, but then the other four. I mean, the other four are straight killers, and I mean, I'm working on a match right now with William Tackett versus Oliver Taza for our brown belt title as well on that card. So, they're like it takes a little bit of fucking effort to make good matches. Like, I mean, I don't understand people these days. Like put a little effort in. Look at these guys, watch some video, look at their, look at their styles. Like I see around, and it's just lazy matchmaking. It seems like it's not hard. Like that's the easiest part of my job is that, like I'm a fan of the sport. I know who the players are. I know who's exciting. I know who isn't. Like, let's make some match. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, the other part is getting them to agree. But the matchmaking
and getting the right price.
We actually hold pictures of their kids until they agree. So that's actually how we've gotten some of the big names we've gotten is I've actually blackmailed them. So
I still think though that 4 weeks of straight just like events for these different types of gi and no-gi, servicing both. Not everybody will do that necessarily, but I think right now one of the things that's interesting when you look back to how people endured during times of hardship, we don't really like have a Seabiscuit. We don't have like a collective thing that we're watching.
What'd you call me?
Easy there. If I'm going to call you something, I'm going to call you Samoa Joe. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is that there's a collective idea of, the sports would rally us together. And if you were to look at right now and you say, all right, these athletes are in need of some way to channel what they've not had or things that have prevented them from being who we are used to them seeing on major cards, I think these are good opportunities. So I'm a big fan of that. And I understand that you guys are working entirely hard. And Ryan, one thing I haven't gotten from Zack here is I don't know that you necessarily told us how you guys met. How did you guys meet?
Me and Zack, we initially, in jiu-jitsu class, I'll tell the funny story. The first time I ever like met Zack, it was like a Saturday jiu-jitsu class. I'm a white belt, I think a 3-stripe. He's a 4-stripe. And at this time I'm thinking like, oh my God, look at all these black belts and look at all these people. And so I'm standing in line after getting donked on by somebody, and I look over and there's this guy with like a veteran patch, like a We Defy, or I think like a Mission 22 patch. And I'm like, well, he's a veteran, so I already like him. And then I watched him strangle a black belt with a freaking, what was it? That was a bow and arrow. And the black belt just like tapping and goes to the end of the line. I'm like, who is this guy? So now, I mean, basically since then, it's just been, we've been some ventures in real estate.
You become friends with Ryan, you got to tap a black belt. So.
Pretty much. But no, I mean, that's basically what started as just jiu-jitsu. And then, we started
doing some business together, doing some different real estate stuff. And, we found that each of us had different things that we could, Ryan's a networker. He knows everybody. He can reach out to people very easily. The people that he's like, oh yeah, I've been texting this person. I'm like, what, really? I'm not like that. I'm more of, the business side, the financial side, the leadership, that kind of stuff falls with my background a little bit more than the kind of the marketing. He's all around marketing. And so the things that he's missing, I kind of filled in. The things that I have missing, he filled in. So it was kind of a perfect, match to start business together. And came with this idea and really to get into jiu-jitsu business, unless you are, multi-time, world champ or run your own business, you have to be or run your own gym, which you basically need to be a black belt to do that. And we're like, well, pretty much running a clothing company or a business or a promotion is the next thing. And so we're like, let's do it. And we started both, one more successful than the other. But I mean, we have sold some shirts, but I mean, it's just, if you can put together a plan and put together a good, team to execute, then you can accomplish anything. It doesn't matter how experienced you are in jiu-jitsu. It's just, can you follow a plan, and can you continue to grow and build, and are you passionate about it? And if the passion's there and there's a will and the not give up whenever you hit roadblocks, because I don't care what business you're in or you're running or you're starting, you're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to hit people that tell you it's a freaking horrible idea. And, as long as you can keep going, and this is literally, the business world is the exact same as the jiu-jitsu world. As long as you keep going, you will become a black belt. And as long as you just keep going, you're going to, get demoralized. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs in business. Then you will find a way to continue to grow and eventually be successful. And if
you quit and
move on.
Yeah, I mean, with Zack, I mean, when we got teamed up, it was like he said, it was more of like one of those synergistic things. Like he's really introverted and really more, the business side, the financials, that end. And I'm kind of the big idea guy, the kind of operational. I know the industry inside and out. I know the fighters, and it was perfect. I went to an event, and I remember calling Zack the next day and being like, yo, we got to do something. So I sent a message out to like 20 people, and 4 people showed up. One of them was Zack, and then the other 2 were Molly and Ben. And Ben happens to be Corey's, the PhD epidemiologist. That's her husband. So like, and this is something that we've been able, that's pretty interesting, is to cultivate from our gym. We basically use friends and people that we train with that have these unique talents. Like one was, had her master's from Brown in chemical engineering. One was a Cornell almost Olympic team rower. We had like so many like crazy mixes of smart people. Zack's a West Pointer. I'm just, an Army music dumbass. So it's like I had to surround myself by a bunch of smart people that that could help us execute this. And it was just, everything worked out well. Everybody was ride or die, but everybody was doing it part time. And it eventually got to the point to where me and Zack were like, all right, we got to formalize it. What I'm doing right now, my day job in oil and gas, I can't do both. Like I'm literally doing phone interviews in the bathroom with Flow Grappling at my job on my lunch break. And then I'm going right back to sit at my desk and go back to work. And I was like, Zack, I'm going to get fucking fired. Like this isn't sustainable. So we were able to take the leap, and it's been hard. It's been ups and downs, and it's been, arguments. But if it wasn't for Zack, I'm telling you right now, like I would have already went scorched earth, and I probably would have already offended people so bad that we probably wouldn't have had our place in the industry anymore. So
actually, that doesn't seem to matter that much.
No,
Most
actually,
kind of tend to, do what they want and think that's okay.
Well, what the craziest thing is that the martial aspect of the sport has kind of gone away. Like where's the morality? Like, there's kids watching this. There's kids watching these flow grappling screens with their parents, and you got all these cuss words, and then you got all these people. Like, there's just nobody's thinking about these things. Like, literally, the future of our sport is watching you on Instagram, is watching you on Facebook, and you're acting like a total jackass. Like, what do you like? Where does that even come into play as being a leader or a role model?
Because it's difficult because I think what happens is they'll see examples of somebody else doing it and they figure, oh, I'm going to follow that pattern. So usually when I see somebody act a certain way, I can follow that trajectory. I can look and be like, oh, that's a Conor McGregor. Oh, that's a Dana White. These are just the diet versions of them. Yeah. And to me, I say, listen, go make your money, but don't pretend to me like you're anybody that's all that original. Most people hear archetypes of somebody else. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine. It's just, I feel like the kind of mentality perspective I've had, which I believe has kept me, even if I've disagreed very, very harshly with some of my friends during the pandemic, is being like, listen, I'm still going to be the person that I was before the pandemic that I am after. So that integrity is never going to be taken from me. So to me, I say that's the same thing that I figure with all these journals and practices or people, how they treat themselves in the sport. If you treat me a certain way, I don't care. But if you see me and you see me, training somewhere, I'm probably going to be the same way that I act on these shows. Yep. And so to me, there's never a put on. It's just, hey, man, what you see is what you get. If you like it, cool, join us. There's a nice community of us that seem to like what I do. And if you know, I'm not really hurt by it. So that's kind of the perspective I've kind of imparted on people when I see them getting hit with the rough times from people who have a lot of time on their hands.
Well, and it's also the industry is like, it's still very new, like a lot of these events haven't been around, much longer, 4, 5, 6 years or whatever. So it's still relatively new. So for anybody to say, oh, it has to be done this way or this way. Well, we were kind of like, well, it looks okay this way. It looks okay that way, but this is our way. And, you can either like it or you don't have to. And I was caught up for the longest time trying to please or to try to make these connections or, to try to make everybody love us because that's what I wanted. I just wanted things to be happy. And I had this big, like, pink cloud view of the jiu-jitsu industry. And then that shit got shattered about a year in, when we're catching legal papers and we're having to.
Here's the good news, though. I would rather it happens to you this early. Like, don't be 5 years into it and be that guy. Be it now, and be closer to who you are, because I think there was once where I brought you on maybe about a year, a little short of a year ago, and you wrote something, and when we were going to air, I was like, what the fuck was that? And you were like, hey man, I'm just trying to be a manager and get the hype out there. And I was just like, I can't, like, dude, I'm going to talk to you on air and I'm going to have to give you so much shit because there's no way I can look at that and be like, yup, that worked. Because I know who you are. Yeah. And so it's very important to be accountable. Like, just be that person. I guarantee you, if the product is something that is worth our time, people come. Like, they will come.
And that's something that even Zack will tell you, like, it's been a growth process for me, like going from, almost, a drug addicted 350-pound damn near guy to to where we're at now in just a span of, almost 6 years. I hit my 5 years of sobriety here soon, and a lot of different stuff, so there's been a lot of challenges like the flow grappling stuff. And then our challenges, around COVID-19 and just trying to build a viable business in this space. We've been through trial and tribulation after trial and tribulation. And the main lesson out of all of that is that keep going, like keep trying, like keep innovating, keep putting good events out. And eventually, when I was doing a lot of this promoting stuff, Raph, like I kind of look at like Donald Trump and I look at all these guys and like Vince McMahon and Dana White. And I look at these promoters, Don King, I'm a big boxing fan. And I'm like, they were larger than life characters, but those guys had really thick skin. I don't really have thick skin. You talk shit to me, I want to show up at your house and whip your ass. So it's like I don't have.
Let me give you a little observation here. If you want to bring up Dana White, it's very interesting to me because you mentioned about not giving away the location of your event until the very end because it could be used against you. Well, that's exactly what happened to Dana White. And he was trying to do it out here in California. He thought he got around everybody. He was touting how smart he was and then telling people who had concerns, go fuck yourself. Now, that's cute, but it sounds like something Vince McMahon does. However, Vince McMahon, even at his most epic, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, stays pretty quiet. Like now, he lets his minions go do his shit, and Vince sits at a tower. And Vince has probably similar views, but Vince is like, I'm not stupid enough to be him. I was him 20 years ago. Now he's doing what I did, and he's saying the dumb shit, and I know how to play this game better. And guess what? When it came down to it, and Florida goes, hey, WWE, you go first. I know for sure that pissed off Dana because it made him look foolish that they swept in on the inside.
Well, his wife's in the Senate. His wife's a senator, and so his connection with Donald Trump, he's kind of like
1,000,000% donations were made.
Yeah,
but the
100%.
difference is there's no record of Vince saying something about COVID or how they were going to get a place, bragging about it. They just did it. And so the difference between the two different types of businesses, if you look at it even further, it's the reason why when the UFC was trying to get Fox to pony up more money, Fox was like, no. And then the WWE came in and they're like, hey, pay us more than you paid them. And they go, sure. It's just a smarter business because they do things similar but different. So
and didn't buy the UFC too is because he couldn't control the outcome. So no controlling the outcome, he could control the story, which
control the narrative.
And if you lose all your superstars like the UFC did, you don't have any fans anymore.
Let me put it to you this way. The UFC was on their radar to be purchased, but they were just like, why are we going to do that? That's so much work that we already have a brand and product that's for family.
Where's the marketing? I mean, it's different now because the UFC, everybody was, wanting to see it and wanting to see a live event. But before that, before the quarantine, I would be like, who fought last week? Like I used to follow this. Now I don't even know what's going on because there's no marketing around it because they're getting paid the same no matter what. So.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part about it is my heart goes to a lot of these guys because they're in the same place grapplers are where they want to compete, they want to fight. There are very few opportunities for them to do that. So some of these guys who were getting paid $10,000 during the pandemic, I was like, who the fuck is your agent, dude? Y'all should be getting a little bit more than just 10, to show up. But anyway, these are different issues.
But But back to your point about like ego and all that stuff when it comes to promoting and being like your true self, I think that when I started actually doing that, get away from the exaggerated promoter kind of, vibe and got back to just being me and just being genuine, I think I could kind of see things change there. All that bombastic rhetoric and crazy talk and, we're the best, change the game, blah, 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 most exciting this and that. I was doing all that just to piss people off and get a reaction and get people talking. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was going out there not knowing what I was doing. I knew what I was doing.
I'm aware. I also know what it inevitably will bring. Yes. It's a heavy, weird thing. And especially if I get to know somebody, like I always tell people, I'm like, just be your true self. Like with the athletes, whenever we talk with them and I do these interviews, it takes a little while sometimes. They don't know how to market themselves at the very beginning, but we find ways within about an hour to find something unique and special about them that other shows won't do. And so the difficult part about that is like when they try to go the Gordon Ryan route, I'm like, you're not actually him. You're not that guy. You don't have this where nothing penetrates it. Like you have to be that person.
He has an adamantium skull. That's why nothing actually enters his brain.
The problem cause is you could tell him 2 + 2 is 4, but if he truly believes it's 5, he's not going to learn or do anything different. So yeah, of course, that guy's going to be like, fuck you in the comments and feel just fine about his day. But if you're not that guy, don't be that guy.
And I'm not that guy. And that's something I found out the hard way. I'm out there. I'm the face of the company. Zack will even tell you, I was like, I don't want to do this. Let me do all the work. You go be the face. And he's like, I can't because of my business. And then I'm like, well, you go be. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it. So I was like, kind of like, whatever, I'll do it. I'll get out there. But I know that I'm a gaff machine like Joe Biden sometimes. I'll get out there and stick my foot so far down my fucking throat that I'm shitting out shoe leather for a week. So
here's the good news, man. You seem to be in a place where I feel like if somebody says shit about you now and you're just being your authentic self, it really won't hurt as much because at that point, you really do have a separation of, hey, listen, they truly are just haters. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Some of those haters will want to be on your card.
Well, no, and some of those haters are on our card or are on our cards now. But you know what? You turn the haters into believers by communicating and talking to them and saying, hey, this is what really happened. Don't listen to some Joe Schmo that I'd have never even talked to in my life, telling you something he heard 3 people deep, like it's like the game telephone. It starts off, hey, what's up, man? Next thing it turns into, somebody shot Halle Berry, with 22 while she was eating dinner, or whatever. Like it's just so distorted.
Well, it's also part of the reason why I wouldn't repost an article that says something as ridiculous as what I read about you guys, because I look at it and I go, I'll talk to Ryan. Mm-hmm. Like when I talk to you, I'll get it straight from you. And you can tell me one thing, and even if it's a different perspective or something else happens, whatever, dude. But I have a very, very high ability to be like, listen, the best way for accountability or any good journalism practice is to actually talk to the people involved. So for me, it's a high premium. But let's say this. All right. I want to make sure we give you guys plenty of time. I'm going to minimize myself. Y'all can go ahead and promote one last time your events. Tell the people why they should be excited, where they could catch it, all that good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks again, Raph, for having us. We are back with Third Coast Grappling Kumite 1, which will be from an undisclosed location here in Houston, Texas, featuring 8 of the top, basically middleweight gi players in the world. You got guys like Gabriel Arges, Jamie Canuto, Jake Watson, Manuel Hibamar, Gustavo Batista, Roberto Jimenez, and then the 2 brown belt phenoms, William Tackett and Pedro Mourinho, will be in the house to see if they can mix things up and make a difference. So that'll be show 1, June 6th, starting at 8 p.m. Central on Flow Grappling. And then 2 weeks later, we have the 180 pounds and above gi bracket, which is going to be insane. And then I think a week later, the 27th, is our 180 and below no gi bracket. And then 2 weeks later, after 4th of July weekend, we go July 11th for the absolute. And that closes out our Kumite series. So we're looking forward to a great summer. We've got a great format. We've got some great competitors, and we've our new production and everything else that's coming along is looking to be top notch, like everything else we've tried to put out. So I think everybody's going to enjoy the shows and the tweaks that we've made. And I appreciate everybody's support and and patience and kindness during all of this, because we got in this for the love of the game, and that's where we're at now. So we're just happy to be able to put on shows again.
Yeah, Flow Grappling, streaming.
Yeah, Flow Grappling, boom.
Good man. I look forward to talking with you guys once you have the events. We'll obviously be keeping an eye on them. I'll probably pull on a couple of those guys to talk about their experience, get their thoughts and perspectives, because we also want to make sure that they get their ample time to be talked to. But
after, make sure that when they bring on and they tell you about how we paid them 100% and how we treated them so great and all that gets some good press too, because that's normally how it goes.
Listen, I'm not doing any of that shit. They can talk about what they want. I'm not out here giving free PR. It's just they're going to come. They're going to be interviewed.
Free PR, I like that.
And if I feel like talking about it, then maybe. But no, more than anything, what they like, and I have seen this with people who have talked about your shows. They like the vibe that you're attempting to make. They know where you want to go, and they know that you guys are investing in that community. And I think that's a really, really high premium, is invest in that community and they will invest in you, is the best way to put it. So
for sure.
Just keep going, man. I know it gets hard. I know it gets crazy. And I still, like, to this day, I know in 20 years when we have to explain why the fuck you had to cancel an event, I'm just going to be like, you know what? Don't talk about it. We're good. It happened. It was
the worst. I've never had to cancel an event in my life. I've thrown thousands of rock shows. I've done all kinds of stuff. Never had to cancel an event ever in my life, and it was fucking terrible. But
yeah, I mean, these are going to be the moments that we have a weird shared experience that we're all going to try and go, man, what a fucking time. In the meantime,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I've said we can just compartmentalize and act like it didn't happen and just move on down the road.
For sure. Well, Zack, it's a pleasure to get to meet you for the first time. I've talked with Ryan a few times. I'm glad that you guys were getting out there, putting out content for people as well. I'm really happy that you were interviewing a number of people. I think it's really important that those people get their time to shine. So we look forward to catching up with you guys in the future. Stick around for just a second. I'll talk with you guys off air, but I'm going to close up this little thing real quick.
Cool, Raph. We appreciate it, man.
All right, see you.
All right, just to remind you guys, make it super easy. Right now, good way to remind you guys, if you've got Post-its, take it out. Figure out 3 persons, places, things, especially jiu-jitsu related. Small businesses really, really preferred here. It's super easy. Write down 3 people per day, but figure out how that you can go and support them. Buy seminars, buy DVDs, buy their time, maybe, I don't know, get a private from them, do all that sort of shit. You're probably not that good at jiu-jitsu anymore, if we're being honest. So get good at jiu-jitsu by buying some privates with people. And then once you're done with all of that sort of stuff, you can go ahead and find ways to go and support your local communities by, I don't know, man, if you don't got fucking money, I get it. Go ahead and give people some support by volunteering your time with your gym, finding out ways to help organize. At the very least you can do, check in on your fellow grapplers. Mental health is very important. Sometimes we don't go out of our ways to do it, but go ahead and do it. Check in on your friends. Check in on all of those people, especially those who are still going to be in quarantine as they make their way back to the real world. All right, here's what I got for you guys. Tomorrow we've got Dan Stoner at 11 a.m. Best Coast time. And then this weekend we are doing Fight Companions. There will be a Fight Companion for the UFC on Saturday. And then on Sunday, there's going to be a Submission Underground. You guys want to catch that here. We will be here giving you all of our thoughts and drinking some great beers. In the meantime, my name is Raphael. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you back on the mats.